Hello, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this is another session for our Star Wars minicon on the Open Hearth community. This is something we've done for a number of years, kind of built on a project that Rich Rogers has accomplished, running over 100 different systems to play out different Star Wars games over the last many years. And this is an homage to that. We are, in fact, playing Microscope by Ben Robbins. Uh, uh, I wanted to try one of these narrative building GM-less games for this kind of thing, and I looked through, and this one seemed the most appropriate. I've played a lot of Microscope, using it in very different ways to build whole new worlds that we played campaigns off of, for building the history between campaigns. I've also used it to build cities for campaigns. There's all kinds of things we've done with this. So this is another kind of experiment. This tweaks some of the Microscope rules and approaches. One of the things in standard Microscope, you actually kind of dig down and play out scenes. We're playing at a higher level. We're not actually going to dig down to the scene level. We're doing something else for that. Because while I appreciate that, it also is one of those things that kind of breaks flow if you're just trying to do that creation part of it. So what is this thing we're going to be doing? The concept is we are here. It is December 2012, and the mouse has just bought the Star Wars universe. And we imagine that, all over town, all over the world, various writing teams uh, are being activated, and the idea is they're building story Bibles, essentially a story and a kind of history that the next trilogy can be built on. Uh, Essentially, these are all kind of pitches in some ways for that. Very open for these writing teams, which we are going to be one of, with a couple of things. One, there have to be at least a few returning characters, because they want to get those actors back and they want to get the nostalgia in there. So at least a few of them, whether that's robots or humans or whatever. So that generally means that we're looking at probably a 30, 40 year gap given the end of that last trilogy. Um, the only absolute canon are the two original trilogies, essentially 1 through 6. Those we definitely know are happening in here. Now, mind you, there may be elements that allow us to go back and reframe things that happened in there. That's a possibility. But those are there. It does mean that kind of anything else is fair game if we want to bring in elements from the extended universe, from KOTOR or other Star Wars things. We're welcome to integrate that into what we're doing. So that is the sort of the general kind of concept that we're working with. Now, the actual approach here is, as I said, a modified version of Microscope. The first thing we're going to be doing is, rather than an add bad palette, we're going to be taking a few minutes to just brainstorm, like, when we think of Star Wars, what are the things we think of? We're going to make a big list of those things, put those on the table. They are top of mind thoughts and ideas and concepts that we're going to go through. We're going to build those up. And then we've got our Star Wars Story Bible. In our Google Doc that we're working with, that's the sort of second heading. And we're going to playing out the Microscope system for that. Basically, there's a lead player who goes on each of these turns. They kind of set the theme for our particular round. That theme can be as general as, hope, or, it could be more concrete, like Luke's journey, or it could be like the Jedi. There's a theme, and things that people build on are going to be kind of based around that theme. That person who is the lead player, which is called the lens, will then add something to our history, and they can add uh, uh, some elements under that or beside that what they've done. There are it then plays out that the other players get to come around and also now add something, and we give that lens player then one more kind of bite at the apple at the end to do one more thing to put a button on that particular round. Now, what can you put on the history? And this is on our Star Wars Story Bible page. There are three levels of things that you can place. We start with one concrete era and one more abstract era. Eras are periods of time. These are chunks of time. They could be as short as a few months. They could be as long as a few years. They could be a block. They're going to be abstract. We don't actually say it has to be this long, but is it a block of time? In eras, there are kind of describe the vibe, the general thing. So our first era, the one that we have set, is aftermath of the Battle of Yavin. Like this is the immediate aftermath. That's that first era. Okay, what happened immediately afterwards? And below that, there are things that happen in that era. Those are called events. And events should be kind of cool titles, things like that, like the Second Battle of Hoth, or Luke arrives in X place, or something happens. We want to try and make it concrete, maybe give ourselves, you know, a name of a place or a character or a thing, but it is a thing that happens within that era. So, like an outline that's nested below the era. And then the level below that, that can be attached to an event, is what I'm calling a hook. You can ask a question about that event. You can add a twist to that event. You can describe merchandise that might be sold for that event. You can describe a scene from that event. Just little bitlets that help us maybe flesh out a little bit about what happened at that event. And we'll kind of be building. One of the things is that uh, uh, this is a game that when it's your turn, you get to go. You can, it's a little bit different from Microscope, you can pull the table or ask the table for some input in this. In Microscope, normally they say no kibitzing during this, but we're going to kind of open that up. But if somebody is doing something, we'll hold off on our input unless they ask for it, unless they open it up to the table. Anything that someone builds and adds to the history, that's set. Um, the only question we might ask later, if something looks like, it doesn't fit with what's going on, we might stop and ask ourselves, okay, how does this work with something that we've established earlier? What's going on there? And then that person can explain that, or we can tweak that a little to make it fit with something we've already established here. The last era I have for this is a new hope. Like that's the brackets for just before we get this next trilogy, what's happening, and we'll hopefully come up with an idea for what that is. Now, on the sheet that I have right now, I only have 4 blocks of eras, but we can add new eras, and you can put them before any of the eras that are in the middle. We move it around. We've just got those 2 endpoints for the eras there. So that is going to be the big structure that we're going on. I want to make it clear, we are not building the new Star Wars history. We are building a new Star Wars history. Imagine that there are bunches of teams doing this. So don't feel like, oh, I'm doing this and that cuts off something else. No, this is one take on things that we are going to be creating here today. In terms of tone, it's Star Wars. It's PG-13. because who can imagine that Disney would ever make a rated R movie? So at this point in time, PG-13 to get all of that lucrative money, or PG, we're building that history for that. So it's that kind of tone, with a little bit of the eye to making this saleable, for people if we want to be as that. Or maybe we're dedicated fans doing a pitch, and we really want to have a sort of a faithfulness. But we'll see that as we go and play. In terms of safety tools, uh, normally I would do a lines and veils, but because of the nature of what we're doing, I've kind of held off on that. But because of that, I want to put a little more emphasis on our uh, really basic tool, the X card. So the X card for us today is going to be a reactive tool. It's we say X card if we were to hit something that we find objectionable, that we find problematic, that feels wildly off tone, intrusive play behaviors, all of those things can be there. Or if you hit something that you're like, okay, I would have X carded, I would have marked that as a line or a veil. And if we do X card something, we can kind of make a record of something that is kind of taken out of of the history. So feel free to do that. It's also if we want to stop and recalibrate where we're at, and maybe stop and have a discussion for that. If you X card something, the only question we might ask is like, how far back do we need to cut? You are welcome to explain why you have X carded something, but you are absolutely not required to. You never have to defend that decision, never have to explain that to us. You are welcome to do that, but you don't have to. So that's going to be our big tool. We're making that card maybe a little bit more wide ranging than we might otherwise. Uh, that's our sort of first layer. The second layer is, of course, we are using the open door policy, which means that if you need to step away for whatever reason, emotional, or somebody's come to the door, whatever, feel free to step out. Be great if you could tell us that you're going to be back, but that's not required. So that's kind of on the table there. So those are our two big safety tools, table rules that we're going to be playing with. We'll be taking breaks. My sort of mental, timetable is when we hit 3 hours. Maybe we're already done by 3 hours. But when we hit 3 hours, we're going to be going. If we're still going at that point, we're going to be going. Okay, now we need let's move to wrap up, and closing that out. So while I've got it scheduled for four, that last hour is maybe just if we need to do some cleanup on that. Now before we do that, I do want to have us go around and introduce ourselves, and maybe talk about like what your thoughts, feelings, experience, fandom are with Star Wars, just to get that set. Now, I'll start again. So I am of the age that I saw Star Wars in the theaters that first opening week. I can still strongly remember being absolutely terrified by the Sand People there. Oh, there had been weeks and months of previews that had shots of them before that. And I remember I knew I was going to be terrified of them, and I was when we got into the theater. I was one of those kids that the Christmas of that year, my parents bought me the not the Star Wars figures, but the set to have the Star Wars figures mailed to you because they didn't have them ready that Christmas. I can still remember going to one of those sort of box classic old local stores to buy that. And uh, I I followed Star Wars, loved it, and then it kind of fell out of it. There were a lot more people in my group that were very much Star Wars fans. I have some friends around here who have 3D printed costumes and all of that kind of thing and have gone to the cons. But it is definitely Rich Rogers' enthusiasm that has rekindled the spark for me. Greg?
Hey, I'm Greg. I use he, him pronouns. So my Star Wars, I'm young enough, question mark, that I watched Star Wars on VHS. That's when I first encountered Star Wars. Star Wars is the reason I'm involved in role-playing games. The original Star Wars West End Games D6 was a book my sister bought, and I borrowed a lot, too much. And it's got me into role-playing games. Rich Rogers talking about Swoop Gang on the Gauntlet podcast was what kind of pushed me over the edge and said, "Oh, I need to join the Open Hearth and get involved in this kind of stuff." Um, I will say, as a tone thing, my favorite of the original six is Return of the Jedi. My favorite Star Wars film that exists now is Rogue One. That is my kind of Star Wars. Yeah, and I am one of those people that 3D prints stuff. I have a 3D printed comlink
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, big Star Wars nerd. Love it to death. Play a lot of Star Wars Saturdays. Star Wars Saturdays is sort of my head canon after. Real quick, Battle of Endor.
Oh,
Maybe not
sorry.
Battle of
Yeah,
Yavin.
I've sorry. Thank you.
No, no, it's all good. Yeah. Uh, I'll be quiet now.
Okay. Teal.
So I too saw the original movie in the theater, and I remember the theater that we were at. I remember the immense lines, and I didn't know what movie we were seeing. I mean, I sort of did, but and I remember being very frustrated with the lines, and I actually wanted to go home. I was like, this is too much stress. I don't want to go. And then I saw the movie, and it was just mind-boggling how it changed my understanding of, for one thing, how big space is. Because if you see something like Star Trek, you really don't know how big space is. Old Star Trek. And we had other sci-fi movies, but they didn't really show how big space seemed to be. And Star Wars was the first time that felt like something I could grasp. The other thing I would say is it just made the concept of space being full of exotic locales was just so appealing. And again, I read science fiction books, and so it's not like the some of the ideas weren't there, but the visualization of it was very impactful. Um, and so the first three movies I'm good with. After that, everything is I've seen later movies. I'm not. I have a friend who I game with who knows all of the different media, and it's really cool listening to what he has to say. But I have not followed it that much. I read one book, Splinter of Mind's Eye, long, long time ago, and I think the original concept of the setting is really cool. I think they have gotten away from. I would say I'm not sure that the later movies had the best consistency in the storytelling. And so that creates problems in the lore for me.
I
Uh,
think that's absolutely fair. Yeah.
so so I'm coming from this, but the idea of like how would you take the ingredients and then as writers, how would you like try and work out what's an approach? I think that's utterly fascinating, which is why I'm here. So
Excellent. Andish?
Yeah, I'm Anders here. I may talk for a while here, so please interrupt me if I go on for too long. Uh, I'm not quite old enough to have seen the movies in theaters, or at least not the first one. I was 2005 when it premiered in Sweden, if I'm reading things right. But I know I had it was aired on Swedish television, so I know I watched it there. I don't remember if I watched it when it first aired or if it was some friend who had recorded on VHS. I know we didn't have it on VHS. Um, but I had classmates who watched Empire in theaters, and I didn't. I didn't watch. I don't think I watched Jedi in theaters either. I did watch the special editions when they were released. I watched one or two of the uh, prequel trilogy. I was not super impressed with the prequels. I have friends who are a decade younger, and that's their movies, and
Mhm.
that's fine. I don't mind if people like them. It's just they didn't hit for me. I'm still a New Hope guy. Still the best movie, one of the best movies ever. Like in structural and storytelling, and that. So I'm big on that. I like the other two in the original trilogy, but they're not as movies. They're not as great for me. I didn't have any Star Wars toys when I was a kid, but I had a friend who I played a lot with, and he had like tons of the figures. So we played a lot with those, made up our own games and that sort of thing. Um, and I've always been kind of on the outskirts. I had some of the comics that were published in Swedish, and I when when I got older and started buying Lego sets again, I bought some of the and the Star Wars Lego sets were what really got me back into
Oh,
to buying Lego. Um, and yeah, and then it was X-Wing, the miniatures game. So I have not quite all of the minis for that, but almost all of them. I played that a lot. And then Star Wars Saturdays. So it's more, I've never been, and this is not just for Star Wars, for all my fandoms. I'm not huge on like trying to internalize canon and that sort of thing. I like the vibes, I like the general events. I have like I probably have some version of my internal canon, but I'm not stressed about this thing happened. Well, I can ignore that. I don't need to care about it. That's more my attitude. I'm similar to Teal in that I don't think they've done a super great job with the sequels. I enjoyed them when I watched them. When I go back and rewatch them, there's a lot of stuff that feels a bit awkward and not as good. It doesn't quite work for me as true Star Wars, and that's for various reasons. Um, as for what for it to work for Star Wars as me, there's two very different components. One is purely aesthetic. I gotta have stormtroopers and TIE fighters and lightsabers and that sort of thing, or not have to have, but that's part of it. If those things are there, then that's a big thing. But it also has to be the right mood and right themes, that sort of thing. I like the good versus evil struggle, like and hopeful, and that there is a certain well, we don't go to certain particularly dark places. Like it is still like a PG-13 universe in um, that said, I think Andor is really, really good. I haven't watched all of season two. I'm not sold on season two. The bits I have watched. Um, I like I like it better when Star Wars is more allegorical and less like exactly parallels current political events and that sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, um, yeah. I'll stop now. I think I'm.
okay,
I'm
absolutely. And Stephen.
So my name is Steven. My pronouns are he, him. Um, I I am of the age where I saw Star Wars, but it probably wasn't the first release of the first week. My memories are I grew up in a very small rural town. Um, and some new kid moved, oh, 3 miles away out in the woods, and I went to go visit with his family. And he told me all about this great movie. And I learned to hum the theme song before I saw the movie. And I think the first time I saw the movie was in 77 whenever it started going out to more and more theaters and started stretching out. And it was at a drive-in. So the first time I saw it was on a huge screen, projection screen. And I was hooked before I saw the movie and got all the little action figures that I could at the local hardware store and carried them around in a little homemade backpack and made up my own stories and all that kind of stuff. Um, I had I read some of the books and some of the comic books. So Rich and I have talked about some of the crazy comic book characters that they had after A New Hope, like the Bunny Rabbit people and that kind of stuff. And um, I had Empire Strikes Back spoiled to me from the comic book because I saw it in the grocery store and I read it and I'm like, that is crazy. There is no way that has anything that it may have actually turned me off of reading Star Wars comics for a while. And then my parents, my mom specifically, drove me 2 hours with with some other people to go see the movie because, we were so rural, it took a 2 hour drive to get to a city that would have a theater with the movie. And about halfway through, I was like, this is just like that comic book. Oh, I can't believe that. That's crazy. I was like in disbelief. Um, so after I had graduated from college, I had friends who camped out in line for the prequels as they were coming out. And they were very excited. Um, and I did not camp out, but I joined them at the movie, and that really built it up for me. I was very excited. I consider the original trilogy. I've said this at the time and still, the original trilogy are classics. The prequels are good movies to me. They aren't they aren't at that classic level. However, one thing that I saw was as I got older, my coworkers started having kids, and I saw the kids' passion for the prequels, especially like Ahsoka and things like that, things that were happening that I thought were little cartoons or that weren't that big of a deal. That brought up a whole new generation of fans. And that was a very exciting to me and opened my eyes to um, the importance of those other movies that I might not consider to be, as good as what I was used to, but they were that to another generation. And I kind of have hope. I'm not a big fan of the sequels. They kind of seem to be all over the place. But I hope to see the same kind of generational thing come up with the kids who were raised on the sequels or who were raised on like Rogue One and The Mandalorian, who join the fandom and that's their passion. And I'm kind of, excited and hopeful to see that. I looked for Star Wars RPGs for years. I can't remember the first one I played, but I went to cons and I would sign up for Star Wars games and all kinds of things like that. Um, and I was really excited to see Rich start up Star Wars Saturdays. And it's been fantastic since I've, been playing because I thought it would scratch the Star Wars itch, but I think it's expanded the Star Wars itch. I thought I was a big Star Wars fan because I knew I'd read some of the comics and some of the books and all that, and I've met people in Star Wars Saturdays who know vastly more than I do about Star Wars. And I'm like, wow, it's exciting to see that. Um, I also collected Star Wars action figures and that kind of stuff and still do, and some of the Lego and everything like that. Um, Over a decade ago, especially during the prequel era, on my lunch hour, I would go out and hit what I called the Holy Triumvirate, which was the Target, the Walmart, and the Toys R Us looking for new Star Wars toys. And, be like, oh, I got this droid action figure. That's awesome. Um, my favorite movie is probably Rogue One, and that feels kind of like a betrayal to young Stephen because before that it was probably A New Hope, but Rogue One is very exciting to me. Uh, However, I find Andor to be I haven't completed the first season. It just hasn't grabbed me like Rogue One did, which I find surprising. As far as the TV shows, I really did enjoy the Mandalorian TV shows. They did a really good job of exemplifying. To me, Star Wars is fantasy in a Star Wars setting, and the Mandalorian was a Western in a Star Wars setting. And I really like how that worked. It was very exciting. Yeah, and I think that's it.
Awesome. The idea of another generation finding these things is, I think, a really important bit. For me, the moment that I realized that was giving away Halloween candy one year. I had a Jar Jar Binks mask, and I had a lightsaber that somebody had made for me, and uh, being stopped by a 5-year-old who very seriously like stopped me and said, Jar Jar doesn't have a lightsaber. Like, was very like bothered by my wreckage of the canon, and it was like a really like very serious and wanted to tell me that it maybe even a little bit apologetic that this adult had gotten it so wrong. So that was great. Ah,
My realization was very similar. It was also a Halloween kind of event where I had a coworker whenever I started at work who had never seen Star Wars. And that was at a time when it was difficult to find. So I went out and got the VHS tapes that I owned and said, "Here, watch this." And he was like, "I fell asleep during A New Hope." And I'm like, "Oh, this isn't for you. Get those back."
uh,
And then his daughter got to be of an age where she dressed up as Ahsoka for Halloween one year. And he went out and got a Darth Maul mask to go trick or treating with her. And it became this whole family kind of thing, at least at that young age.
hmm
And so Halloween was another key touch point where that passion in those kids, basically through his daughter, he at least got to know what Star Wars was to a certain extent.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to say one other thing before we get started. Uh, there's been a lot of baggage associated with the most recent trilogy. Everything we do here is not a critique of that, because I actually love two-thirds of the recent trilogy, and there's been unfortunately a bunch of things associated with that. So we're doing this just as a what if and not as a critique. So the first thing that we are going to start with, we're going to go to the first page of our uh, thing. This is a brainstorming. And what I want to do is we're going to go around a few times, and I want us to each like three things that we think of when we think of Star Wars here. So, for example, for me, droids, dog fights, which I'm going to misspell. I'll correct my spelling later. And sand planets. Like those are our three things, and we're going to do this a couple of times. I just want to get us like a lingo on here. So, uh, Greg, I'll have you add three things there.
I will go with strange aliens. Um,
I was thinking those two exact words.
yeah, strange aliens. Yeah, because yeah. Anyways, I pontificate on all of these things. Outlaws.
Ooh,
And uh I'm trying to think of a good term for this. Essentially, there is a black, there is a white, and there is a gray, and they are distinct. Um,
black, white, gray, I think is
Black,
good.
white,
Good.
gray. Okay.
Yeah,
Black, white, gray morality.
Yeah,
excellent.
someone. Sorry, this is a bit of a thing. This reminds me of a video I watched that I posted to the Discord about morality in popular fiction, and it divided it into, I think, pre-classical, post-classical or something. Classical morality is the like good evil sort of thing.
Mhm.
Post-classical, if that was the term they used, that's the more modern, like, or everything's just shades of gray. And I think Star Wars belongs more in that classical with a little touch of like, yeah, there is some gray, but you also have like the clear good and evil. And fighting evil is a good thing. That's sort of.
Absolutely. Teal, two or three things you want to add to this brainstorming? And we are going to go around a couple of times on this thing.
Okay. Can I go ahead and write in the
Yeah,
document?
please.
Okay. Um, I'm going to go with spiritual mystery is one.
Hmm.
Mm.
Um, and um, let's see. Power versus operation.
Okay.
Mm.
That's another one. And um, uh, this is
Excellent.
Yeah.
Ondish.
Yeah. Well, I go with some of the things I mentioned. So some stormtroopers, or that's a thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say like World War II technology in space. Uh, and well, the Force.
Okay. Yeah. Stephen?
Yeah, I've been taking notes and I'll paste them in. Whoops. Maybe. See if I can get there. Okay. Powerful music,
Mm.
force powers, and fantasy in space.
Okay. Excellent. Uh, let's see. Uh, I'm going to add Jedi. Like I love the Jedi. Uh, I love uh, uh, vastly different ship designs. Like I love that we've got so many
Mhm.
ones and uh, uh, a uh, it a little bit like that World War II tech in space that feeling there. I like uh, weird factions. The idea that we've got like the Hut Cartel and these other groups that are going around in addition to the big players. That's always been fun. Greg?
Uh, I'm gonna go with planetary scale construction.
Oh yeah.
They build things in Star Wars at a scale beyond that. Oh, I had a really good one and then it just went away. Uh, because you talked about weird factions. The um honestly, skip me. I'll come up with it. I'll write it down. Get it next
Okay.
time.
Okay. Well, I'll come back with you before I go again.
Yeah.
Teal.
yeah. So let's see where we are here. Um,
Ooh, nice.
yeah, the characters in Star Wars are come from vastly different backgrounds. I think that's really an interesting, and maybe it's contrasting, say, the Empire versus the Rebels,
Hmm.
as the Rebels are from everywhere, and the Empire, everybody dresses the same. Um, I'll just go with that.
Okay. Okay. Andish, two or three things?
Yeah. Thought of a couple of things, and some of these overlap a bit, I
Yeah,
think, but
don't worry about overlapping kind of at all.
yeah. Sense of wonder, because there is like big things happening, and also related to that and some of the other things, wondrous locations, like there are these, yeah, the big things, old things, and also um, uh, call it present history. Like there are allusions to events that have gone before that affect the present and that sort of thing. It's not like it's not static and it's not without history. There are like things change.
Excellent. Stephen.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing I did before, and I'm going to cut and paste my ideas
Yeah.
if it works, and then say them out loud. Heroes and villains who are different than normal heroes, such as aliens or droids, or we see the white male protagonist, and suddenly we see a female, or we see a person of color, or something like that. Um, Lived in future slash past tech. Things are broken. Um, and have to be fixed or definitely seem to be lived in. Moral lessons about slavery or fascists or evil, that goes back to the black, white, and gray,
Hmm.
and the historical aspects that Anders mentioned. Various planets, again, that goes back to wondrous locations like water, jungle, desert, ice, forest, clouds.
Excellent. Excellent. Greg, I'm going to come back to you before we do this next round.
I remembered.
Okay.
Master apprentice
Oh,
relationships.
yeah.
That's a, oh gosh, I'm typing in the wrong spot. All right. Um, master apprentice relationships. Um, big explosions.
Yeah.
That's important to me. When things blow up in Star Wars, they blow up big. And then if I can do one more, there is very little no there's no pause to explain,
Okay.
right? There is no we don't meet an alien and then Lord of the Rings style pontificate upon the history of the thing. We just move on. What are the Jawas? How did they get there? Why are they always moving the droids apart? We don't care.
The only
That's what the
explanation
Jawas
we
do.
get is at the very beginning in the title crawl,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, title crawl. That's a good one too.
I'm going to add some more here, kind of echoing a little bit what we talked about before, but uh, authoritarian foe. So that is the foe has what at least one of the foes has authority, has command, is a rigid structure. I think related to that, maybe not always explicitly, but we do have class elements. We've got the rich, we've got the poor, we've got the rogue versus the noble, all of those kinds of things. And then there's usually some kind of rebels like that we've seen in there. There is a rebellion, there is a struggle that is going on. Teal?
I'm not. So I'm going to toss in something that is not from Star Wars,
Hmm.
but it's visually connected. Uh, so, oops, did it not come in? Hold on. Where'd I go? Uh, try this again. Um, So there is a game called Salvage Union, and it's a mech. Basically, you live in mechs and you retrieve mech salvage from the planet you live on or whatever. And what's fascinating is some of the mechs that they've drawn look like Star Wars mechs,
Uh-huh.
and it really sort of got my mind going about what does it look like if you're on a planet that the Empire conquered or tried to conquer and they left war machines. They've moved on. You're sitting somewhere on the frontier and you've got these pieces of um, higher tech from these vast cultures, but you're living in the in between where everything's broken down and you're just trying to survive. And I think that even though it's not exactly the Star Wars thing, it does fit
No,
with some of the, you know,
we definitely see that kind of DIY
yeah,
things in several of the films. I think that's really fair.
yeah. Hmm, I guess my hmm, this is gonna be a weird one.
Sure.
Another weird one. Um, and the reason I'm thinking about this is I was in a game on Thursday, and the uh, Trophy Dark Side game, where we played Trophy Dark, but as basically it was a Sith oriented adventure.
Hmm.
And my character is somebody who was not trying to be the Sith Lord. That was for everybody else. Um, but as I was playing this character, I realized that I sort of constructed the character's um, psychology around this idea that she was somebody who had suffered trauma, but instead of dealing with it, just kept like repressing it. And one of the best ways to repress that was just to cut off her feelings, and then it made it very easy to work for the Sith. And I think there's an interesting way that some of the characters in some of the stories, like there's a lot of grief in Star Wars, actually. You don't, I mean, I don't think about it normally, but just because I was playing the character,
Hmm.
that's something that's come to mind, and how people deal with those emotions differently.
I think that's a perfect element to add to that list. Andish?
Yeah, this came they pushed this really in the sequels, but it's there in the prequels as well, so I'm going to put it in, and that's Bloodlines versus Found Family. Because those elements are there, and they are sometimes in opposition, sometimes not. Um, there is a thing that is very much in Star Wars, but I'm not going to put it here because I'm not sure that I want it, and that's
Okay.
the unexamined droid slavery. Like droids are property, and sometimes they are free. And the one time this is addressed is in the Solo movie, and then it's kind of they turn it into a joke character, and I think they it's yeah it's an issue that is weird, and I'm not sure.
So maybe like steer away from the droid question, or if we're going to do that, maybe we want to have a conversation about that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay.
I think we need to, if that comes up, we need to decide how we want to deal with it. And I'm fine no matter how we do it. It is part of how Star Wars functions. But as soon as you start to think about it,
Yeah,
it gets kind of icky.
icky. Yeah.
So,
So yeah, and I
so,
think that's about it for me.
so we've played together, right? And droid
Hmm.
rights are a big thing for me
Yeah, yeah,
personally.
yeah.
And I play a lot of those themes in my games or bring them up. And it's
Hmm.
interesting. I just recently ran across something. it was a discussion with George Lucas, and his quote was, "Droids are not sentient. They
Yeah.
are items.
Hmm.
They are, they are like a ship or a gun or something like that," which I hadn't ever heard before. And it's
Mhm.
interesting to me that dichotomy of Lucas saying, "I'm going to make these great characters who are droids, but they aren't
That's
really
it.
sentient."
Oof.
I'm like, "Ooh,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
and I brought those
Okay,
themes up
George.
in games I run as well, and I think
uh,
it's a really it's a pain point for the setting, and I don't agree with Lucas about that, or like, I mean, that's not how if you watch the movies and all of that, that's not how you can. I don't think you can read it as them being
We'll
non-sentient.
put a button like, and we'll keep that in mind as how
Yeah, yeah.
and as we handle that. I think that's fair.
Well,
Uh,
can I ask a question here? Because we're dealing with two different things here. We're dealing with this sort of uh, simple, more childlike Star Wars is a wonder fantasy, and now we're starting to get a little bit more into we're not kids anymore, and we're seeing some of the uncomfortable things that as a kid we didn't notice so much,
Mhm.
maybe. And I think that's very interesting territory, especially for a role play. Well, okay, we're not doing role playing, we're doing movies,
right.
but that's interesting territory. It moves Star Wars away from the PG-13 a little bit and moves it a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe that's
Well,
outside our.
I'd argue that it is a PG-13 question, but let's consider that here. Stephen?
um." The only other thing I have is that we mentioned the opening text crawl, and that's
Okay.
something that's iconic to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
I did have a couple more things,
Yeah,
if that's okay.
please. Yeah.
It hasn't really been mentioned. We've mentioned a lot of stuff about the Jedi, Sith conspiracy. That tends to be something that's a through line that the Sith are in the background planning something. Um, we're about to enter into a second page, so I'm going to let somebody who's much better at formatting. I see Lowell is selecting things.
Here we go.
Fantastic, thank you, Lowell. So yeah, Sith conspiracy. There are, and this is maybe a little bit more EU, or at least it's not really mentioned much in the films, but there is forbidden technologies, like in a very Dune kind of way. Star
Yeah.
Wars, like cloning, is not supposed to be happening. There are weapons, like the Mandalorian uses a disintegrator. You are not supposed to use those. That's a forbidden technology. I'm not sure how much that affects it, but like it's an interesting thing, right? There are things that get banned and people are supposed to stop doing them. The Sith generally keep going. And then a gilded past. Something that was very interesting about the prequels is that, at least for the original trilogy, the past is very much referred to in very glowing terms. And to see that, and now in a new trilogy, is that gilded past the rebellion? Or is that gilded past the Empire? Or is that gilded past still the Old Republic? And maybe people have different theories about that.
I like it. We're gonna do one more, and you feel free if you to go. I don't have any more. I've only got two more
Yeah,
things I want to add here. For me, jump to light speed,
yeah.
like that look, that vibe, that idea of you have to build up and make those calculations and jump, and then uh, uh, our let me think how I want to put this. Alien cultures are internally diverse. We we may see an alien as a villain, but then we'll see them as a member of the rebellion. We'll see people, going against their cultural thing. That those kinds of vibes are cultural and not inherent. That there can be people that go outside that culture. That there could be various different kinds of vibes and feels for each of those aliens. Teal, anything else you want to add here in this last wrap up?
Mm, Not that I can think of.
Okay. Andish, anything else?
Yeah. Um, this is kind of spinning off of what you said about the alien cultures, because I think about this as like Star Trek aliens versus Star Wars aliens. And this isn't absolutely true, but Star Trek aliens, at least the alien of the week, they're very much like, oh, this is an allegory, and this represents something. And the Star Wars aliens don't do that. They are people who look different, and that's the thing. But there are, yeah, that's good.
Races
Races
aren't
are allegory.
allegory. They aren't
Yeah,
forehead of the week.
yeah,
They
yeah,
aren't
yeah,
allegory. Okay.
yeah. Um, and this was just a thing I thought about what Teal said about the contrast between, or the slide from like PG-13 fantasy to examining things in a more adult perspective. I don't think those have to be in conflict in what we create here.
Hmm.
I think we can create something that is PG-13 wondrous, uh, while we as the players or writers or whatever level we want to be on can still have like the more sophisticated perspective, if you want to do that, and use that to exclude things from the PG-13 fantasy that feels uncomfortable or are complex or pointing in bad directions.
I put
That's
mixed vibe of wonder and critique, that idea that we can kind of move back and forth.
Yeah,
Does that
yeah,
seem fair? Okay.
absolutely. Because I mean, we have the thing with the rebellion versus the empire being a Vietnam allegory and all of that. And I like the allegory when it is at a higher abstract level, as when you start to get down to, yeah, I talked about
Okay.
that. I don't
Okay.
think I have. Oh well, there was one thing I thought about, and I'm not
Sure.
sure if this is a thing here, and that's that you don't really have, or technological advancement is really weird in Star Wars, because you can pick a thing up that's 5,000 years old and it works just as well as something that's absolutely new. But you still have this thing with, oh, now there's a new type of TIE fighter or
Hmm.
whatever that's cooler and better than the ones they had before. So there is something there that I'm not sure how to address. There's
We
some sort of
we kind of hand
psychedelic.
wave tech levels a little bit
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
some ways.
Absolutely. It's not real world technological advance. It,
Absolutely.
it's plot serving tech advance.
Yeah. Stephen?
I had one other thing these are all great, and it really started something going. You mentioned uh alien cultures are internally diverse. We see uh weird things like a cantina or a gambling den or a fair, and there's this just amalgam of aliens there. So I just put that down as cantina, gambling den, fair, diversity, right? Um, I'm trying to think of others, outside of the cantina, but I mean that cantina scene is a big one.
Yeah, it's such a touchstone.
Yeah,
I mean, you have, isn't there some of that on Canto Bight as well?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Every
have it
planet we
like,
see has isn't monospecies.
yeah,
There's always lots of different kinds of peoples on them. I think that's really fair.
I'm gonna point something else out that I just realized, that's kind of meta, which is people who look for fine details. What I'm going to point out is things like fans who look for the Camtono that's an ice cream maker, or they see, oh, that that blaster is made out of a flash, a camera flash equipment. Um, that's something that at least it's kind of a touchstone where people are like, oh yeah, I
A
can see
meta
these things.
delight, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What sprues did they use to make that chip? That kind of
yeah,
thing. Okay.
yeah.
Greg, I'm going to give you last word on this.
I think I'm good. I think I'm
Okay.
good.
We're going to take our first break. We're going to take 10, come back, and then we're going to get started. And Greg, I'm going to put you in the hot seat for this first round.
What?
So
I'm the
just
first
tell me
lens.
you're the first lens. So
Okay.
take 10 and we'll come back.
Thanks.
So let me talk a little bit sort of mechanically how we're going to do things. We're going to work in this player order, the one that we used at the start, which is going to be Greg, Teal, Anders, Steven. That's how the order is going to work here. At this point, I am the showrunner. So I'm going to be moderating things and getting the writers. Again, you're welcome to ask for input or pull the table on something if you want. But otherwise, it's kind of in your hands here. And I may be a little bit more hands-on early on to show you how we get the form in or ask questions or things like that. But let's let's start, Greg. Yes,
Before you,
Andish.
Yeah, I got a little bit confused when you talked in the beginning. So are we creating the history leading up to the next trilogy,
Yes,
or are we
yeah.
creating the new trilogy?
We are creating the history leading up to the new trilogy. We are creating our Bible. These
Oh,
are all the things that are going to lead up to that. And if we start going into that first movie, that's cool too. But we're giving the pitch. Like I imagine that maybe the end part might be that first movie, but we're kind of trying to sell. Here's what has happened since the last trilogy. Here's how we would start out, but leaving space, fruitful space for later writers to come on and build on what we've got. Does that seem like a fair way to put that?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. That
And
was
thank you for clarifying that because I missed that part. Okay.
Okay.
yeah.
Doesn't change
I
my
think,
lens.
No, no.
yeah, I think that,
So,
oh,
yes,
I think that
Stephen.
also answers some of the questions that I had, which was, how do we handle consistency of the story? Do we need to have I've played Microscope just a handful of times,
Uh-huh.
and there's been kind of pitch sessions at the beginning, like this is what I want, this is what I don't want, and we can kind of work off of that. What I'm hearing is we're not going to have consistency through this. People are going to basically say this is a historical thing of things that are going on before we get to that first movie.
And we might be building that first movie towards the end of our history, towards
Yeah,
the like literally, the last era or two. Uh,
good.
if we have in terms of consistency contradictions, we'll stop and we'll ask like how this fits with that.
The
So
other thing I wanted to remind
yes,
you was don't forget to hit the record button.
thank you. I think I do have the record button going, don't I? We are recording. Okay, good.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. Ooh, you scared me there, my friend. So again, Greg is the lens. Greg is going to give a theme for this, and for all of us on this round, we'll try to, directly or obliquely relate to that theme. So, Greg, what would you like as for the lens, the theme for your round to be?
Uh, so there is a way to watch the Star Wars films, uh, and it is the hero's journey of one of the best heroes in all of Star Wars, R2D2. So I would like to do the lens of um, it's mostly just around the character of R2D2 and
Okay.
R2D2's journey. Um, but maybe it's R2's relationship with Luke.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to put that as the lens there on round one. Hero's journey of R2D2, relationship with Luke. So what do you want to start with? You get to
Oh no.
do.
Oh, I thought I didn't have to start.
Oh no, no. You now have to put something on the board here. And essentially you get to put a thing and then you can put a thing below it. So if you start a new
Okay.
era, you can put it like an event below that, or if you create an event, you can put, a hook below that.
Do we have to create an if so there's the era of Aftermath of Endor, there's the era of A New Hope, the
Those
first
are two.
film.
But we can figure out any other
Okay.
eras that are in there as well.
Let's see. Uh I'm gonna name an era.
Okay.
Founding of the Jedi Academy. It, it has to have happened. I
Absolutely.
think that's just And then I am going to add an event. And again, so it doesn't have to be sequential. Like if I imagine it happening later,
Right.
I guess it really doesn't matter. I'm going to go
People
with
people can go, okay, I
R2.
think this happens before that event kind
Yeah,
of thing. Yeah.
R2D2 flees the Jedi Temple.
Ooh.
Oh gosh, R2D2. There we go.
So we've got that founding period, that time in which that starts, which and at some point in that R2D2 flees the Jedi Temple. I know you say Jedi Temple and not Jedi Academy there.
Oh, you're right. Let me
Well,
do
I'm
Academy.
asking you. I mean that, but that could
No,
be
no, no. I think that's accurate.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Jedi Academy.
Uh, Teal would come to you. You can add an era. You can add an event. You can add a hook onto. We have just the one event so far.
Um, hmm. I'm going to add. hmm,
Okay.
So what I'm suggesting is that R2D2 has an awareness either through records or from personal experience of um, an older um, time with Jedis and is going to then contrast that moving forward with the Academy.
Nice, nice. I like that as a revelation, as a scene that we might see. Uh, uh Ondish.
Yeah. So so I can add. Are we restricted to this era? Not that I'm
Nope,
talking
you
about,
can go and you can build a new era. You
but I'm
can
adding one thing, right?
you're going to add one thing, and it can
Yeah.
be directly or tangentially related.
Hmm. Um, think I like this. The founding of the Jedi Academy. I think um, and we're centered on R2D2's relationship to Luke here, or their
He's
relationship.
his journey, his relationship to Luke, either one of those
Yeah,
things.
yeah, okay, okay. But it's R2D2 where we're centered. Um, think I think here after R2D2 leaves the academy. Oh, oops. R2 oops, two, three, six of late.
Oh, okay. Excellent. I dig that. Stephen.
Um, so other than event, what's under event?
So under event, you can put anything that would like give us a little more perspective on what's going on there. A question about it that you can something that we need to know, or a twist that we see, or as I said, merch like here's the Jedi Academy playset, or a particular facet of that scene.
Okay, so tell me if this works.
Sure.
I'm going to say R2 um um directs Leia and Han um to find a new Rhodian Jedi. Recruit. Padawan.
Okay.
Named Ross Ennui. Um,
Excellent.
is that a good sub?
That's a perfect thing. Like
Okay.
like we we
Okay.
we now know something about why R2D2 sought them out. We don't have all the answers, but now we kind of pointed at some interesting things there with that.
Okay.
Uh, Greg, uh, we come back to you and you get another bite at the apple here.
Do I get one or two at this spin?
You get, let me see how this works. I believe that turns the lens, they'll have a chance to add one more element. Yeah.
One more element. Okay. Uh, Going back to the aftermath of the Battle of Endor, um, uh, Luke finds a Jedi holocron on Endor and places it inside of R2.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting. And now the last thing we do is we go back to the person who went before you, Stephen. Yeah, this is what we call the legacy. And what the legacy is uh, you get to name something that has been alluded to or mentioned or maybe not explored as much as the theme here and add something about it. So it could be Jedi Academy. It could be Vras Ennui. It could be Jedi Holocron, like something that has just kind of popped up in what we've built as the legacy, and you get to add something about that.
So it needs to be something concrete. Is that right?
Yeah, or it could be a theme that we've gotten here as well.
So let me. I might need some help
Sure.
verbalizing this, but I see through this uh reorganization after chaos,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of the theme that I see is everything we've discussed so far is trying to build upon something. And I think the illusion is that the rest of the galaxy is in chaos, and we're trying to get
Yeah.
order out of that.
So our legacy is reorganization out of chaos. What do you want to add to that? Do you want to add a new era in there? Do you want to add an event? Do you want to add something to one of the events we've already got?
What I'd like to do is I'd like to show, probably after in the aftermath of the Battle of Endor heading, I'd like
Okay.
to show that there is chaos in the universe by maybe this is seen on Endor, or maybe this is seen whenever they're trying to search out the new Padawan. Um, that is where they are. They see cities that are crumbling or cities that aren't. They don't know about the control. Does that? I'm not sure how to verbalize that,
Sure.
but
Now, do we want to see a specific thing, or do you want to represent that as like in the aftermath of Battle Ender? Do we have a period of that chaos that we're going to kind of explore?
I'd rather see a specific thing. And I think in order to make this specific, like Microscope does, it should be um uh something like the city of. I'm going to make up some words that will change. But city of Dantooine
Okay.
um has criminal and empire elements that are attacking the populace.
Okay. So that feels like an event, like
Yeah.
something that happens there. Now we're going for our Star Wars name generator.
Yeah. Ferrex.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
I think that's an existing city. Does that break
Barracks
anyone's
is the Andor. It's the city in Andor where they are
ah,
scrapping the Star Destroyers. I'm
okay.
okay with that.
Okay. Oh yeah, that sounds great then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put in Ferrex. Okay.
Okay. So
And
read that out.
the city of Ferrex is in chaos as the criminal and Empire elements fight and threaten the commoners of the city. And I
Okay.
think I might move that event into the aftermath of Andor. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a good legacy?
That's perfect. That's
Okay,
perfect.
good.
You've established a thing, a theme, a legacy theme, and then you've given us a specific thing to associate with that. All right. So we're going to come to our next round. Teal, what for this round with you as the lens do you want to explore here?
Hmm. Actually, what I would like to do, um,
Okay. So
it,
what do you
it,
want as the lens? What do you want as the theme here for this round before you put anything on the board?
yeah, sticking with the hero's journey of R2D2, and this might sort of go outside our boundaries, so I'm open to adjusting it. But I wonder if it would be interesting to um, touch back on Luke and R2's relationship when they were at the farm before all of this happened.
Hmm. I think that does go outside the kind of the timeline that we're
Yeah.
working with here. But I think you are speaking about maybe Luke's past.
Well, and specifically moving from that sort of simple farm and work focused time period before everything fell apart.
So you talk about that transition, that change. So may I suggest here maybe Luke's changing mantle or Luke's changing role?
Well, but I think it's interesting to look at it through R2's like just
Right.
so if
But
we
that's
use
something that you can, yeah, that's something you can do. I'm giving us a bit like here's the broad theme that all of us can play around with here.
right, yeah. Um, but yeah, the contrast between different time periods in the relationship, I guess, would be the broad
Okay.
theme.
So changes in Luke's role and relation to R2. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, that
Okay.
works.
And with that in mind, what would you like to add to that? To, what do you want to put on the table?
Actually, an interesting thing would be uh okay. Tentatively I'll put that here, which is Luke and R2 um when- um,
Okay. So we get an event, a scene that we see of that's very, very early before the academy has been founded.
Yeah.
Luke and R2 kind of breaking ground on that.
Yeah, essentially they found a spot. Maybe there are already buildings there, but they know that they're going to have resources to have this school, and so they go back to something that they did a long time ago.
Okay.
May I make
Uh,
a request?
yes.
Can we make a can we name a planet or something like that? Make a specific location
Oh yeah.
deal?
Yeah, that
Yeah. Teal, do you have a planet name, or do you want to pull
um,
pull the table?
I would say pull the table, whatever.
Okay. Anyone got a generator at hand?
Um, what about some of the places we've seen in the original trilogy? I was thinking the moon with it in A New Hope with the Death Star. The is it Yavin?
Yavin 4. Yavin
Yavin.
4. Yeah.
What do we think about that? It could also be Tatooine. That's a central location of Sand Planet, right?
What do people feel?
I like
I
the
don't
idea of using an established planet. I think that's interesting for this, but picking a new place could also be cool. It allows us to define this new place. But I think Yavin 4 is. I think tying everything back to Tatooine is a bit much, and so yeah, I think someplace other than Tatooine is where I'm landing, I guess.
Stephen, you good with Yavin 4?
Yavin 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's put that in. So I've added that in as the concrete detail there. Um, Ondish, we're going to come to you with this theme.
So we're talking about their different like eras or
Yeah.
how their relationship.
Changes in Luke's role, changes
Yeah,
in Luke's relationship with R2D2.
yeah. I think I want to put in an event in A New Hope, if that's okay,
Yeah.
with oops, with R2D2 and Lou. I'm not sure reconcile or I think that's what I want to go
Okay. Uh,
because it's clear that there's some sort of rift here that's been created. R2 running away. There's something there. So I think having a conflict between them, but having them reunite in the movie is a good.
absolutely. That seems good. Uh, Stephen?
Oh, okay. Um, let's see. This is tying in. I was typing some ideas.
Oh yeah.
Um, this is tying in Luke's relationship and establishing it. I want to uh so I want to introduce opposition so we
Sure.
see some conflict in here. And I
Okay.
think the first step is I'm going to put that in, which is I think as an event under the threatening of the city of Ferrix, um, is Ebor the Hutt has gathered the remaining armies of the Empire to defeat the new fledgling government centered on the planet of Shem. So we see people being gathered up from Ferrix and shipped back to Shem to serve in the army. Um, and this is I'm not sure if I need to phrase this, but this is a threat to the new fledgling government.
Okay, I think that's super fair, and I think it tangentially works, to the relation because again, there's a change in what Luke is supposed to do, what his responsibilities are.
It contrasts in that there's growth that he's doing and building things up with R2 in his background as well as we see growth in another direction. Yeah, a
Absolutely.
contrast.
Uh,
Well, and just to comment, I think that there's a neat element of the whole dominion or domination versus cooperation thing going on there,
mhm.
because as each side is trying to build up their forces for the next struggle, um,
Yeah.
men to work for their group, whereas Luke's trying to gather people to him on a volunteer basis.
Uh, Greg, uh, let's have you add something to the table here.
Can I add an event to an era that we have not named?
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Do you want it to this unnamed era? Do you want to put that era before the founding of the Jedi Academy? Do you
well,
want?
actually, I might just name the era.
Okay.
I'm going back and forth on that.
Sure.
Um, the New Republic, um, same as the Old Republic.
Okay.
Um, in that it is like yeah, I think that
So
gets across the point.
yeah. So basically, to another way of putting that
Hmm.
might be Old Republic begins to follow the mistakes of the past, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. That's just to give myself a sense of
yeah,
what you want out of there. So we know after the Jedi Academy has fallen, after R2 has fled the Academy for whatever reason, that then there's a period that we see that has the Republic repeating those mistakes. Uh, Teal, we give you another chance to add something here.
Hmm.
Ooh, interesting. So if you would read that out, Teal.
Yeah, so my thought is to bring out if R2D2 is trying to direct Luke um, to new solutions, it's interesting to have not a like a primary conflict, but just a simple representation of this New Republic, Old Republic question, where R2D2 and C3PO, who are known to argue with each other all the time, just do some of that without necessarily revealing all that R2D2 knows, but just
Right.
letting us know that there is tension between the comfort of the Old Republic versus what R2D2 knows for whatever reason.
Excellent. I think that's great. Uh, Greg, you now get to do
Legacy.
a legacy.
I think the theme, a struggle with obligation, kind of applies here, and I think, uh, I think I'm going to add an event to A New Hope.
Okay.
Um, that is going to come before their reconciliation. Oh, nope, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it either.
I always cut and
Uh,
paste earlier
yeah,
ones here. Give me a copy. Let me see if I can do that for you. Oh, we can just, there you go.
there we go. Thank you. Um, Luke stands in the wreckage of the Senate building.
Ooh, ooh, nice. Good visual, nice concrete scene there.
On Coruscant, but it's kind of implied, but
Yeah.
okay.
Uh, that brings us to Ondish. We come to you to be the lens for this third round and then add one or two things.
Yeah. Uh, so I want to bring the Sith into this because we gotta have some
Okay.
bad Force people. We talked about that before in the
So
general introduction.
our theme is the Sith?
Now, I've got more specific than that.
Sure. Okay.
This the Sith conspiracy, uh,
Okay.
kind of leading up to the first movie, like what's happening here
Okay.
in the in between.
All right. Sith conspiracy. And what are you going to add? You get to add one thing or two things if you nest one below the other.
Yeah. Um, huh. Yeah, I hadn't thought that far.
Sure. No, take your time.
I just wanted to get the Sith in there.
Oh yeah, we all
Trying to,
do.
yeah. I'm trying to figure out. Ooh, maybe. Yeah, somewhere there in the founding of the Jedi Academy, there's this Sith infiltrator, and that should
Ooh,
probably be before R2 flees the Academy. I put it in first. I think it's
okay.
before, or maybe it's between the flashback and R2 flees. I'm not sure what makes the most sense there. I put it in before
Okay.
the flashback. Um, uh, for that, this, and I'm going to generate a name.
Okay.
Uh, Infiltrate the academy, um, pretending to be an old Jedi.
Okay. And you're going to give us a name.
Yeah, I've got some. Got a name generator up here. Uh, these are very weird names. Uh, I picked a like True Blood Sith or something, whatever it's called, and those they have apparently very weird names.
Sith
Okay.
Uh,
generally have Latin names.
Not these, apparently, but I'll come back and
Okay.
add the name when it's not my turn, so I'm not taking
Yeah.
up time for that.
Do
And
you
I
want to put a
think,
hook with that?
yeah. Oops, I don't know. Oh, right, what was the
Perfect.
temporary?
There you go.
Um, what could be an interesting thing? A scene where a scene where R2 spot something suspicious.
Okay.
Uh,
So we know there's this infiltrator and that R2 is suspicious of them.
yeah.
I like it. Uh, Stephen.
Okay. Um, I have an idea. I'm going to try and fit it in.
Okay.
This is the theme here is a Sith infiltrates the academy.
The,
Um,
the the broader theme is that this Sith
The
conspiracy
Sith conspiracy. Yeah.
in general, so it doesn't have to concern the academy.
um, this happens early on. Okay, I'm going to read it out loud and then figure out where to place it. I'm just
Sure.
going to put it here for now. Um, a red glowing Sith ghost, Darth Sight, attacks the hero Force ghosts we saw in Return of the Jedi, Kenobi, Yoda, Anakin, with Force Ice and freezes Kenobi in stasis.
Ooh.
Um, could that be what R2 spotted? I don't think so.
But it could be the lead up to that, certainly.
Yeah. Huh. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure where to put that. Could that be the reason he flees the Jedi
Yeah,
Academy?
you could put that down as the
Yeah,
event, but just before the academy there.
that there.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
So we get that hook telling us why that event is occurring. Okay. Yeah. I think that's perfect. Greg, a Sith conspiracy. You're muted.
I am muted. In the aftermath of the Battle of Endor, a young Rhodian, Bros Ennui, studies under the tutelage of a mysterious cloaked figure on I need a classic. I don't know. It's like a prequel planet that we really haven't gone back to.
Ooh.
Naboo. Um uh
Camino, Jakku, Nalhada,
Man, I'll how
Genosis,
to Geonosis is interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
Geonosis.
Alderaan.
But except Alderaan's blown up
Alderaa's
by this
blown up.
point. Yeah.
It is at this point, but this is a flashback.
No, no, this is this
Oh,
is
okay.
this is present time. Yep.
Okay.
Uh
I just had a list here of whenever I looked up Star Wars planets. Ryloth, Polis Massa. I think that's an
oh,
asteroid.
well, Ryloth would be interesting because that's the home base of the Rhodians.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a Ryloth. We haven't been to Ryloth. Oh no, Ryloth. Sorry, Ryloth is Twi'leks. What is Rhodia? Rhodia. Cool.
Okay. Uh and uh Teal.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm going to say that
Okay. Okay.
So a Sith is calling recruits on Ferrix, or in the city of Ferrix, looking for those who are force sensitive, but none are found, asking why they hear of some agent telling people that a new Jedi Academy is being formed. So
Okay.
basically, part of the reason why the Sith are trying to interfere with the Academy is um, the Academy is actually moving faster than the Sith in this situation, and the Sith are just being reactive.
Okay.
Um,
Uh, we're going to come back to you to get a legacy in a moment, but Ondish, you get one more to add regarding this Sith conspiracy.
Yeah. Think I want to add them in. Should have something here in the New Republic, same as the Old Republic. Um, I don't want to just repeat the prequel thing with the Sith taking over the Republic,
Mm-hmm.
because they've done that and it didn't work, or it worked but then it didn't. Um, so I think I think the Sith are undermining the Republic instead. They want to just sow chaos.
Okay.
Um, so
So maybe a particular event of the Sith doing something to undermine.
yeah, I think let's see, conspiracy, uh, take over some part of the government in order to undermine and sow chaos from within.
Okay. Uh, uh, so I think that that seems fair. Uh, Teal, what do you want as the legacy and what do you want to add?
so, if I'm understanding this correctly, the legacy is sort of
We find something that maybe we hinted at during this round
okay,
that you want to add something about.
right. Um, uh, but I think it's interesting to if the Sith are actually like everybody's trying to scramble for position,
Hmm.
but I think it's an interesting concept that instead of the Sith driving everything, maybe the Jedi are actually one step ahead for a change.
May I suggest, as the showrunner,
Mhm.
if for this with this legacy, we actually can put a period between that aftermath of Endor and the founding of the Academy of a race to find the Force sensitives. That gives us an
Yeah,
interesting conflict period. Does that seem okay to you?
yes, it does.
Let me
You want to go ahead and
paste
put that in
let me paste
like a
that
new era.
in. Yeah. So like race to find Force users.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Does that seem cool? That gives us another era to play with and gives us another point of conflict, gives us some definition of times there. Um, that brings us around to Stephen to define this next round.
Okay.
What do you want as
Um,
the theme?
Um, resisting the dark side,
Ooh.
and I'm going to put down Ross Ennui must resist the dark side as Karnax offers her the knowledge of how peace was brought to the core worlds before via a centralized government control. Centralized control. Yeah.
Excellent. So it definitely comes either at the later part of the founding of the Jedi Academy, or is it before he's sought out by Han and Leia, or is it
I
later
think
on? Where
it's
do you want
I
that?
think it's after the founding of the Academy. Let's see, because they have already been recruited. Um,
So in the New Republic, same as the Old Republic?
I think so.
Okay.
And before, is it, let's see, I think it's before C3. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, I like it. I think it's an event under the Sith conspiracy takes over some part of the government.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, tie a nice concrete character into what's happening there.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, Excellent. Uh, Greg.
Let's see. The theme again was resisting the dark side.
Yeah.
We haven't had one yet. So, Luke Skywalker and Darth Karnix have a lightsaber battle. Oh, um, on top.
Now do we want Camino or Genosis?
Um, mm, yeah, I was thinking at the top of a moving platform on Geonosis.
I like it. Uh, that brings us to Teal.
Hmm. I'm going to uh, put in some merch,
Okay.
and it's going to be um, uh, Skywalker versus Karnix next generation. Oops, generation. Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it.
So I am realizing that possibly because they're supposed to infiltrate the Jedi Academy later, should we move that event to the New Republic, same as the Old Republic? Are you okay with that
I
as
have an
well,
idea for
Teal?
this.
Yeah.
Oh,
I have
okay,
an idea
cool.
for
Then
this.
I
Okay.
will.
We'll resolve that contradiction as we do with these things. Which does bring us to Ondish.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, should I say something? But no, I figured out a way because I wanted to bring in one of the other things we talked about forbidden technologies. So I think that's what Darth Karnix is using, some kind of forbidden technology in order to fool Luke. I'm not. Oh, actually, does that fit with this with the theme here? Um, Maybe not, because we're talking about resisting the dark side.
I
Um,
think that's perfectly fair, there. It's tangential, but I think it's fair.
yeah, cool. So I think that it should be after the duel. It's probably in the founding of the Jedi Academy. Now, it has to happen before, so I'll put it first there, with the assumption that other events, or I can do uh, Darth Parnex uh, discovers forbidden technology, or do we want to specify that maybe a way to use um,
Maybe a Sith holocron.
yeah, I wanted to use, let's say, forbidden alchemy um, to disguise themselves and fool other force um,
Maybe we see the witches at that point.
sorry.
Maybe we see the witches
Oh, yeah,
at
yeah,
that
yeah,
point.
yeah. That could be a thing. I don't know too much about them, but let's do it like this then. Learns to use forbidden alchemy, test himself before the learns forbidden alchemy from the Dathomir witches.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. It brings them into the main continuity. I love them as a force. They're really excellent. Stephen, we're gonna I'm just going to come back to you for a legacy. Stephen?
Okay. Um, I'm going to add an event at the race to find Force users. Um, and it's towards the end, if not the last one. The planet Tyrell explodes as heroes R2 and Frost flee in a damaged ship.
Oh, nice. Gives us a nice you know, visual there. We get the big explosions we wanted from our list there. Uh, Adish, what do you want for the legacy here?
Um, oh yeah, I think one thing that we have landed on here with the Jedi now being more active is that Luke is a different kind of Jedi than what has come before. He is acting in a different way than previous Jedi, for good or bad. But he
Right.
is different.
And what do you want to add to the history so far to represent that legacy?
Um, let's see. I think after should be somewhere in the race to find force users, maybe at the end, or close to the end. Definitely after their duel. Um, yeah, I'll add an event. Maybe the explosion should be the big climax there. So, oops. Uh, um, Darth Harnix and their master discuss, or maybe this is more of a. I'll add it like this. Discuss how Luke is different from previous games.
That that image there, that discussion of the Sith, wondering about these new ways. I like it. We're gonna take our second break. We're gonna take five, and then we're gonna come around for one more round of this. So, Greg, we're gonna put you back in the hot seat for the lens. Take five, and we'll be back.
I need to grab something to eat, so I may be a few minutes late.
Sure, absolutely. So, what is our next lens, Greg?
The next lens I have come up with looking at some of the stuff we've built is the criminal enterprise of Eborth the Hutt.
Okay.
I think we need to bring in that underworld element. Um, and and you would think that I would be so excited and have an event or something ready. Um, I think we're gonna put one in New Republic, same as the Old Republic. And there we go. Um, Ebor the Hutt arrives on Coruscant uh, under the guise of a diplomatic mission to unite Hutt space, but is really there to purchase politicians for what pronouns do we want to use for Ebor the Hutt? His scheme.
Okay. Uh, I like it. Do you want to add anything in terms of a hook below that, or are you good?
We're gonna add merch. Ebor's space yacht, and it is a a bronze. It's one of those those like they ship it to you in flat pieces of metal, and you meticulously put it back together, and it's like a little scale model thing, and you cut your hands on it.
Okay.
A bronze metal assemble yourself toy.
Excellent. Teal.
Hmm. 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 Um, I think maybe I'm going to go back to the past
Okay.
and have another event in barracks. Oops, that is not what I want to do. Okay.
Oh, another bit from that chaos scene there. Okay.
Yeah, so after the Sith are having problems finding people to recruit, Ebor speaks with his lieutenants about money he is getting from both the Jedi and the Sith.
A hut playing both sides?
I don't know, for leads on force sensitives. So basically,
Ex
Ebor is, yes, playing both sides and
that's perfect. Andish. I waited until you took a sip before I called your name there.
No, no, it's fine. What was the theme again?
So our theme is the criminal enterprise of Ebor the Hutt.
Yeah, okay. Hmm. It was space, yeah, right. Thing, hmm. Yeah, I think I want to add something to the first movie here again. I keep going back there.
Okay.
Um, think we have like maybe not the opening scene, but maybe it is. Maybe it is an opening, the opening scene. Um, uh, maybe I think I want some kind of raid on Ebor's, one of Ebor's operations.
Oh, interesting.
Um, I think I want to get Han in on that because that feels like something he could be into. But I want there to be maybe Han leads Luke's student in a raid on, or maybe not. I'll write it out and
Sure.
we'll um, one of Ebor's operations or yeah. Um, I want to make this a bit more specific. Um, who else do we want there? Or maybe we can add the people in later. Um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that unless someone has something they think could add to that or
Yeah, we'll see on the go around. I think that's a perfect uh, bit there. Stephen,
Let's see. Anders, where did you put that?
under a new
it's
hope.
Under a
yeah.
New Hope. Thank you. Um, Before that, I think Ebor's second in command, um, Groot Mark, runs a gambling den, on a planet that is unnamed that caters to those seeking a respite from rebuilding. Um, and there is many riches. And I think that um, I like that under the New Republic, same as the Old Republic.
Okay,
Let me cut and paste that over. Um, I'm going to put that at the very beginning.
okay,
Um, and I will come up. I'm also going to add a piece of merch, which is a toy slot machine.
okay.
I'll figure out the name as we move on, of the
Sure.
planet. Yeah.
Fair enough. Uh, we're going to come back to you for a legacy. Greg, one more thing to add about Ebor here.
It's gonna go right after R2's flashback. Mercenaries dressed as New Republic uh, soldiers assault the Jedi Academy. They are paid for by Ebor the Hutt.
Interesting. Get the nice Jedi battle scene there.
Yeah.
Padawans and such. Excellent. And Stephen, what do you want as the legacy for this round? And what do you want to add as related to that legacy?
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to add it right directly after that as a touchstone. Vars saves the other cadets from a beast stampede, um, that uh, was a part of the mercenary attack.
So the legacy there is the battle at the Jedi Academy.
Yes.
Okay. Good visual, gets a character back, gets this nice flash in that. Uh, we're going to do another lens, teal. For this,
Um,
what would you like?
so I would like to add something to the previous lens, if that's possible, before I create a new lens. Maybe. Hold on a
But
second.
what you mean you can relate to that, or
Let
your
me
addition can tangent on that. But what
actually,
would you like as the theme?
Actually, yeah. I think, let's see. Yeah, you finished that up. So we're at right. Lens 6, huh?
Yeah,
So as a theme, um, oops, I'm going to suggest a gathering of forces,
ooh,
and I do mean um, shifting factions in the Force.
excellent.
And the thing that I'm going to add, which ties to the previous theme, but
Sure.
also this one, is at the very end, if I can post it in here. Um, after so after something, after seeing, oops. So Ebor finishes a conversation with a group of Dathomir witches.
Ooh,
Because I am trying to add the element that maybe the Hutt actually are Force aware.
interesting. Uh,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lowell. I
Ondish?
broke that. I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure out how to fix it. There we go. Ondish, what would you like to add?
So the
Theme is pretty broad,
it's
gathering of
gathering of forces,
forces.
shifting factions in the force. Yeah. Um, and where was this? Where was the thing that Jill just added?
Down in A New Hope.
New Hope. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ibra finishes conversation with a group of Daphne witches. Yeah. Huh. This ties into what I was thinking about for my new theme, but I will hold off on that a little bit. Um, think I want to tie in Leia to this somehow because we know she's also strong in the Force. That's Yoda said it, so it must be true.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or well, he said it, but yeah. I'm trying to figure out where this would fit. Maybe yeah, R2 seeks out Leia. Yeah, R2 directs Leia on how to find a new Rodian Padawan named as Anwi. Think there's something there. And what do we know about Anwi later? Must resist the dark side as Karnix offers further knowledge of how to support her forward. Um, and those are the bits we know about Henri. Henri saves other cadets. Sorry, I'm just reading aloud here. I'm trying to
Sure,
figure out.
absolutely. There's a lot of bit we've got now.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to figure out the through line here where there's some space. Yeah, I um, think we have a scene here under connected to this with Archer Directs Leia and Han.
Uh-huh.
Think Leia agrees to train Anwi in the ways of the Force.
Ooh, interesting. Advance the teachings. They've learned a little bit, now bring them forward.
Mhm.
before they get challenged by the Sith later. Okay. Stephen?
I'm going to add, um, see, I think this is the after Ebor finishes the conversation with a group of Dathomir witches, um, we see the red force ghost of Darth Sight step into Ebor and take control.
Ooh.
And Ebor floats around from the force, uh, wielding a very long lightsaber whip against the Jedi Academy army.
Interesting visual. Neat. Uh, we come to Greg.
So much going on now. Um, I think battle. This is in New Republic, same as the Old Republic. A battle rages uh, along the galactic outer rim as Darth Karnix consolidates power. This is the New Republic is losing its grip on the outer rim, where it historically held power. Um, yeah.
Get that montage of the battles
Mm.
there. I dig that. Teal, we come back to you, and then Greg will come back to you for a legacy.
Hmm. Um, hmm. There are not very many spaces left in the story. I
Oh,
don't.
plenty of room to explore characters we haven't touched on.
Um. Hmm. Well, okay. So we have Leia is. Where is Leia?
The last thing we have for Leia is in the founding of the Jedi Academy. Towards the end, Leia agrees to train Ennui in the ways of the Force.
Right. Um. Hmm. I'm going to say. Um. Leia passes Ivor in the hall and detects 15 force
Okay.
energies.
Nice. Adds a detail onto that scene. I like that. Greg? What would you like for the legacy here?
Um, I think there's an interesting theme here of like how the like we have the Force like the Force Ghost entering Ebor and like how the Sith like what is the source of this Sith alchemy um and the Sith's power. Um and I think I'm gonna add an event, but yes, I did it.
What do you want to call the legacy?
Oh, sorry. Oh, oh, the source of the Sith's power.
Okay. Source of the Sith. All right.
Um, and in the battle between Luke Skywalker and Darth Carnix, Luke uses Force Lightning
Ooh, interesting.
on Darth Carnix.
Neat visual, real change. On the fan boards, they're arguing about it for weeks afterwards. I think you set that off. I love that. Uh, Ondish, uh, you are going to decide the theme for this lens round.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Leia, politics, and the Force.
Leia, politics, and the Force. All right. What are you adding?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Sure.
It just felt like there's a confluence of things there that is interesting, and um, I'm not sure what's more interesting. What's the most interesting role for I'm trying to figure out how to position her for the new movie,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because I think we've already, yeah, we have Luke and Han in there. Leia has to be at least in the first movie in some way, um, but probably not. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe three steps past what we're doing here, but I think like you don't want like with the actual sequels, you don't want the old characters to be like the main cast of the movie, but you want them to be there and be important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out because we have Luke, he's got his academy. Han, we don't know what he's doing. Leia is doing something with the Force, but is she also involved in politics? That's sort of the thing I was interested in exploring. And I think
There's an
she,
interesting thing here happening here, if I may. That
Mhm.
we've got Luke training Jedi and Leia training Jedi, but they're not together training Jedi.
yeah, that was something I wanted to set up. Um, and I think, but I'm trying to figure out if it's interesting to bring Leia into the political side, and if that and when and how to do that, because she is the one in
Right?
the one of them who would be involved in politics. I think I want to bring her into that. I think
Okay.
that should be in the New Republic, same as the Old Republic, somewhere there. Leia passes Eber the Hutt in the hall and detects shifting force energies. We have that thing. I think maybe that's what brings her back into uh, politics.
Ooh, I like that.
Um, So yeah, after the battle rages, she sees that things are going bad, and she needs. That's when she returns to politics. I'm going to say Leia returns to politics as the leader um, of political party slash faction. Um, and I'm trying to figure out what their go like what would be there, because they want to Leia wants definitely wants to bring peace, but also um, some sort of enlightenment, maybe.
Well, I think you've got the event. Maybe if you want to go around,
Yeah,
if you want
we
to
can
add a
we can
hook
end
onto
there.
that, we can do that. I think
Yeah.
that's a good start there. Stephen.
I'm going to add an event after that, specifically, just directly after that.
A
Uh,
hook or an event?
I'm sorry, a hook.
Okay.
This is specifically what brought Leah back into politics, and let's say it was the establishment of an uh Alderani refugee settlement. Um uh uh a settlement uh, of New Alderaan. Um and the government um in order to learn from the past.
Okay. Nice. Gives us some dimension to that. Gives us a nice hook there.
I also want to make sure I understand some of the what we're going for here. We don't have to resolve all of these. This is making a Bible and setting up
Right. We don't
conflict,
have
correct?
to resolve everything. We're
Yeah,
putting pieces out there.
right. Perfect. Thank you.
Say we
Correct.
don't want to resolve everything because we're setting up like
Right,
the
right.
movie where things are going to happen.
Greg.
I'm gonna add a hook to Luke standing in the wreckage of the Senate building.
Mm.
Leia has used the Force to protect a number of senators from Luke.
Ooh, interesting. Uh, and uh, Teal.
Yeah, so I'm just finishing up typing something. I'm trying to get ahead for a
Sure,
change. Um, I'm trying to twist everything a little bit. Sorry.
sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Hold on just a second. Let's move some things around. Okay. So I don't know. I'm going to open this up if people want to say they don't like this idea, but um after um Ebor uh is possessed by Darth Sight, this happens. Leia speaks to a dying Ebor after he's freed from the possession of Darth Sight. We do not know, okay, what he whispers to her, but she looks troubled, and then she passes a holocron on to Anwi. And
I like that. That's ambiguous.
that, yeah,
Super interesting. Are others okay with that? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We'll come back to you, Teal, for a legacy. Andish, you get one more bite at the apple on this.
Yeah. I'm going to let's see. Where did I put thing about Leia training? Leia agrees to train Anri in the ways of the Force. And yeah, attaching to her return as a politics. Leia leaves her Force students in the care of. Is Ahsoka alive at this point?
You're saying Ahsoka's alive, then Ahsoka's alive.
Do it.
I'm because I'm not sure about the canon, but if she is, then I want to bring her in.
Yeah. It's a wonderful late reveal there in the history. It's great. Uh, Teal, what do you want for the legacy of this round, and what do you want to add?
Um, I think the legacy is those who move in the oops uh,
Ooh,
shadows.
interesting.
Because I think, and I'm just gonna put in parentheses, um, the Hut, Leia, others, question mark.
And what do you want to add to the timeline?
Um, let's see. Hmm. Leia is tending, uh, like, uh, oops, what is, um, garden and feels planet.
Nice. Good callback. Excellent. The latest Indiana Desert Garden feels the planet of Tara will explode. All right. Final round. Stephen, you're going to set our lens for this round.
Okay, so I'd like to. I'm going to toss this out to the table. I was looking through the different brainstorming ideas that we had, that we'd gone through, and one thing that stands out to me that we're missing is death and grief. If anyone doesn't feel comfortable ending on that note, I can go with a different concept. Um, okay. So then is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Just
I lost
because
sound for a moment there, so I didn't hear what you said.
um death and grief as a final lens for us to go through. Okay.
Also,
Okay. And then because in my mind, every Star Wars movie that we're talking about, someone dies, and there's always a funeral or some big event or something like that. And I was looking, I want this to be impactful, and I think under New Republic, same as the Old Republic, I'm gonna put towards the end, um, C3PO is destroyed.
Ooh.
Is everyone okay with that? Again, I'm
I,
checking, polling the table.
That's so cruel, so
I,
I know.
cruel.
I think it's cruel but appropriate.
Yeah,
And
I'm
I
not
see that,
arguing. I'm just saying it's cruel.
yeah, I see there that R2D2 and C3PO argue.
Yep.
And I think after that, I think it's right after that, there's a battle rages along Galactic Outer Rim. Um, and I'm gonna say I think that's a hook. C3PO is caught up in the collateral. No, not the collateral. Yeah, collateral damage.
Nice.
Hmm.
No, most of the Star Wars touchstones, they aren't collateral damage. That would be a different theme.
Yeah.
Um, so C3PO is saves um something important. I'm
I
gonna
mean,
s
you can have C3PO like the last on the ship ejecting an escape pod. Like that's
yeah,
if we're
yeah.
going with Raimi, sorry.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and would C-3PO be working for Leia, trying to, or not necessarily working for Leia, but trying to be part of a diplomatic mission on the Rim?
Yeah. I think that makes perfect sense. The rhyming the idea that C-3PO is out there trying to follow these values that he's espouses. I think that's great. Uh Lovely. Uh Greg.
Oh. Um hmm, what is an excellent lens, Stephen? Um
I'm sorry. I want to also add to that merch
Sure.
because this is a good place,
Merch.
which is a bike attachment to handlebars, to bike handlebars and the back wheels. So they shoot out little beams like laser pointers. So it looks like you're going into hyperspace.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
amazing. Um I'm gonna add to a detail to Leia tending the desert garden.
Okay.
And it's echoed later. Leia goes to a shrine in her homestead dedicated to uh Organa family of Alderaan
Oh, nice.
after she experiences the death of another planet.
I think that's great. Uh Teal.
Yeah. Hmm. 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 Grief. Uh, I'm going to add a Luke thing. Oops. But I don't, well, you'll correct that. Let's see. It's a little bit odd, but
No, I think that's fair, that reminder. I like you said it was a breather and not the mask. Like I think that's a very different uh idea there. That's neat.
Where did you add that?
Aftermath of Battle of Endor.
Yeah, it's right after Luke finds the Jedi holocron on Endor and places it inside
Uh,
of R2. Um, there's just a scene where Luke is contemplating uh, his father.
Ondish.
Yeah, I'm going to add a scene here to where R2D2 and Luke reconcile. Han gives R2 a piece of the 3PO that he found out that
Oh, nice. So a good, strong visual callback. We're going to come back to you for the last legacy in a moment, Ondish, but Stephen, you get one more on this theme.
Um, Luke, this is after, let's see, where is R2 flees the Jedi Academy. So right before that, um, R2 and Luke argue as the new Academy recruits are being trained. Should they be taught everything, including the ways of the Empire, Republic, and Sith? Luke's grief at this loss is evident.
Ooh, nice.
would that would that happen before the mercenary, or you're having it after the mercenaries?
After the mercenary attack,
Okay.
actually, yeah,
Well, no, I like it. I like it
I
there.
like it
Yeah.
Yeah.
tied where
Yeah.
R2 then leaves. Yeah.
Uh, excellent. And Ondish, what is it you want for the last legacy here?
uh, um, think um, because yeah, death and grief is I think here grief is maybe just grief is necessary.
Ooh, okay.
Maybe I'm thinking I'm trying to add something like but you can't let it overpower you or something like that. I'm not sure
But
how to.
but maybe you don't have to provide the answer. You just pose the question because this movie is sort of ending with posing questions more than providing answers.
That's true. Um, I'm trying to figure out how to like a contrast to grief is necessary, yes, but also um,
But time heals all.
no, I think I like that thought, but I think maybe not time heals all, but that you have to put effort into healing. Um,
Um, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to brainstorm with you to
yeah,
get
yeah,
the right
yeah,
words
please.
out. Um, Grief causes growth,
Huh.
or the healing. Um, you said you have to put effort into the healing. Uh, Grief is necessary, but it's how you heal and grow.
Yeah, maybe. Um, maybe.
What about dropping the but and maybe saying something like grief is necessary for new growth?
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go with that. I
Okay.
think
Sure.
that's
And what do you want
definitely
as
close to.
the illustration of that?
Yeah, yeah. Think where would we put this? So we had Leia tending the desert garden, and going into the shrine in her homestead. I think after that, she comes out with new determination.
I like it. We see the scene of her coming out there. We get a chance for Carrie Fisher to play strong to that and give her character some significant determination. All right. That that is our prospectus. That's our project Bible. We've built a lot here. We've used a lot of the established characters. We've added new ones on here. I think that looks pretty cool. I'll do a tiny little bit of cleanup, but I'll definitely share this as a doc with the video so people can check that out there. Uh, just want to do a quick thoughts, stars here to kind of wrap this up. Uh, 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 let's kind of go reverse order. Andres, we ended on you. Thoughts?
Yeah, this was super fun. I like that. I think it was good that we took proper time in the beginning to calibrate and see what we wanted or not, because I felt like once we after we had done that, we were very much on the same wavelength about what we wanted in the game. I never felt like anyone was trying to add something that was, I don't know, out of bounds or didn't fit with what I also felt was appropriate. I was
Hmm.
surprised many times in a positive way about ways directions people took the story. I really like doing Microscope this way. I've only played Microscope once or twice, and I always stumbled on the playing out the scenes. I think this works much better for me, and I think this is a great way to use that general framework. Yeah.
When we play like with um the world building thing, you know, we definitely do at that bottom level the questions or a new character or something like that to add to that. And then the legacy becomes something like establish a faction or a
Mhm.
god or something like that. So there are a lot of ways you can play around with that structure.
Yeah. I still feel like it's a little bit loose for me. I
Hmm.
think I generally prefer the world building when you have a little bit more structure, but this definitely works. And I think here the like already having such a clear setting and all of that helps with providing structure in a way.
One of the things is I do think Chronicle and Union, kind of the two variations on Microscope that he has to kind of focus things in. And in this world, as kind of a completely different thing, it very much has like a very tight structure and very sort of quick, repeated play. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff. But yeah, I agree with you on good GM-less games tell you what you need to be doing at each time, give you some structure and guidance. Stephen?
Um, I agree. For me, a sign of a good game is that I want to play more of it, and I want to play all of these scenes, all of these movies out. These were all fantastic, and I have to admit, I came into this and I was like, I'm nervous that, um, I'm nervous what my head canon about Star Wars and how it's developed is going to be stomped on, or
Yep.
I'm going to have to adjust and twist things, and it worked out fantastic. Um, uh, Star to you, Lowell, for this concept, setting everything up, running it so well. The brainstorming at the beginning was fantastic. It really helped me go back and touch on things in order to find out what my next scene was, because that's something I struggle with
Yeah.
open-ended games like this, and having those touchstones, especially from myself and from other people where I thought that through, was very good. Um, I liked your addition of adding in merch, because that's a very Star Wars thing, and helped me a lot with like, oh, if I don't have an idea of what to add, I can just add a little toy. And speaking of which, Teal, your Rock'em Sock'em Robots was
Yes.
fantastic. I love that idea. And I really liked a couple of the scenes that I really liked was Leia in the garden. That was a fantastic, thing that came into my head that I can imagine and everything, how that kind of played out, as well as um R2 leaving Luke and then reconciling at the end that was another good touchstone for me. So
Yeah. Good loop there. Nice. Yeah. Teal?
Yeah, so this was a lot of fun. I was really excited to try this. I've never done Microscope before. I mean, I've got it, but I've never either run it or played it. So it's interesting to see what it looks like with other people and not just in my mind.
Hmm.
Um, I have to agree, setting the like doing the brainstorming really helped get a sense of where people um had interests, and it also showed some different ways that we were contemplating the stories too. Um and it's really interesting to see where and how people add elements. And I especially like um, the elements that um, like you have to have some of the sort of more actiony things in to give a sense that
Hmm.
it's a Star Wars movie. But I like how often we have just like short references and sense like scenes where we're basically conveying information, but also a mood.
Hmm.
Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of emotional movement in what we created, which I think is actually consistent with Star Wars. Star Wars wasn't really like was that in the uh, brainstorming. It's not really a thing where they say a thing and then they explain 24 ways that it
Right.
works. They just sort of pitch it in and it catches your attention, and either it drifts on the top of your consciousness or it's something that passes out of consciousness. But there's a lot of ambient
Hmm.
creativity going on. So I really like this. This is good.
Awesome. Awesome. Greg.
Yeah, big star to you, Lowell, for removing scenes. I have played Microscope before, and that has always been my sort of like hiccup with it. It's a game unto itself within the game,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and it's great as a standalone thing. I really enjoyed this. I appreciated also that the guidance, this is not a critique on what exists now. It is just what's another way we could have taken it. I loved all of the ideas. I really appreciated all the things everyone came up with. Teal, thank you for reminding all of us that we can make merch, because I had totally forgotten. By the time we're like, Rock'em Sock'em Jedi, I'm like, oh yes, of course, merch. Um, and really enjoyed coming up with all that. Star to you, Stephen, for really pushing very early on about, hey, there also needs to be new characters um, with that. And Star to you, Andish, for all the very interesting legacies that you came up with. And you played a lot with the lenses and stuff. You always were taking it a slightly different direction when we got to you. So appreciate that always.
I had a good time facilitating this. I wasn't sure how this would work. I really wasn't. Though I love Microscope. I've run it a lot. There is always that tension, especially early on when I was first showing Microscope to people. There is that tension of, oh, I don't want other people to fuck this up, you know. And there is that, and I love that in the mix of it as you play, you kind of get used. There's a lot of trust, and we build a really interesting story here, and with very different perspectives on things. So, thank you all so much. I am going to stop the recording.